There's a part of you that you've spent your entire life running from. A hidden version of yourself so powerful, so transformative, that your mind buried it deep in your unconscious just to keep you safe. Carl Jung called it the shadow. And what if I told you that everything you hate about other people is actually a mirror showing you the parts of yourself you refuse to see? This isn't some new age spiritual concept. This is hardcore psychology that therapists have been using for decades to create breakthrough transformations. But here's what nobody tells you. You don't need years of therapy to access your shadow. Jung left us a method, a specific set of techniques that can unlock the power hidden in your darkness. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what your shadow is, why it controls your life without you knowing it, and most importantly, how to turn your greatest weaknesses into your greatest strengths. But I need to warn you, this isn't comfortable. Once you see your shadow, you can't unsee it, and your life will never be the same. Carl Jung was Freud's star student until he discovered something that shattered their relationship forever. While Freud believed our unconscious was full of repressed desires, Jung found something far more profound. He discovered that we each carry a hidden personality, a shadow self that contains everything we've rejected about ourselves since childhood. Think about it. When you were young, you learned quickly which parts of yourself were acceptable and which weren't. Maybe you were told boys don't cry, or good girls don't get angry, or successful people don't show weakness. So what did you do? You took those parts of yourself and buried them, but here's the thing about buried parts of yourself. They don't die, they hide in your shadow, growing stronger, waiting. Jung made a shocking discovery. The shadow doesn't just sit there quietly. It projects itself onto the world around you. Ever wonder why certain people trigger you instantly? Why some behaviors make you irrationally angry? Why you can spot a narcissist or a people pleaser from a mile away? That's your shadow showing you yourself. Here's the rule that will change how you see everything. What triggers you most in others is what you've repressed in yourself. The arrogant person who infuriates you. You've buried your own confidence. The weak person who disgusts you. You've rejected your own vulnerability. The selfish person who angers you. You've denied your own needs for so long you can't stand seeing someone honor theirs. This isn't theory. Jung tested this with thousands of patients. He found that our shadows contain not just our darkness, but our light. The gifts we're afraid to claim. The power we're afraid to own. The brilliance we're afraid might make others uncomfortable. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's your unused potential. But here's where it gets really interesting. Jung discovered that people who integrate their shadows don't just become healthier. They become magnetic. They develop what he called a transcendent function. The ability to hold opposites, to be strong and vulnerable, confident and humble, serious and playful. They become whole. Think about the most charismatic people you know. They have an edge, a darkness they're not trying to hide. They can access anger without being consumed by it. They can be selfish when needed without guilt. They can be weak without shame. They've made friends with their shadow, and that's what makes them powerful. But if you continue to deny your shadow, it doesn't just disappear, it controls you from the unconscious. It sabotages your relationships by attracting people who embody what you've repressed. It limits your success by making you afraid of your own power. It keeps you small by convincing you that certain parts of you are unacceptable. Jung saw this pattern everywhere. The preacher who rails against sin while secretly indulging, the peace activist filled with rage, the spiritual teacher who can't admit their ego, the helper who can't receive help. The shadow always finds a way to express itself. The question is whether it controls you or you work with it. So how do you actually do shadow work? How do you find these hidden parts of yourself and integrate them? Jung developed specific techniques that modern psychologists have refined. These aren't just mental exercises, they're powerful tools for transformation. The first technique is projection mapping. Make a list of people who trigger you, not just annoy you, but really get under your skin. Write down exactly what bothers you about them. Be specific, be honest, be brutal. Now here's the uncomfortable part. Look at each trait you wrote down and ask yourself, when was the first time I learned this was bad? When did I decide I could never be this way? You'll often find a specific moment, a parent's criticism, a teacher's judgment, a peer's rejection. That's when you split off that part of yourself and threw it into the shadow. But that part didn't go away, it just went underground, and now it's showing up in everyone who triggers you. The second technique is dream work. Your shadow appears in your dreams as the characters you're running from or fighting. The person chasing you in nightmares is often a rejected aspect of yourself. Start keeping a dream journal. Write down the scariest or most disturbing characters. Then ask yourself, what quality do they represent that I'm afraid to own? The third technique is active imagination. This is where you literally dialogue with your shadow. Sit quietly and imagine the version of yourself that has all the traits you reject. Give it a form. Let it speak. Ask it what it wants, what it needs, why it exists. This isn't crazy. This is giving voice to parts of your psyche that have been silenced. But here's the key that most people miss. Shadow work isn't about becoming your shadow, it's about integration. You don't become an arrogant jerk just because you discover repressed confidence. You become someone who can access confidence when needed. You develop range, options, choice. Instead of being controlled by what you can't be, you become free to be whatever the moment requires. Let me give you a practical example. Sarah was a chronic people pleaser who hated selfish people. Through shadow work, she discovered she'd learned as a child that having needs made her a burden. So she buried her needs so deep she couldn't even feel them anymore. But they didn't disappear. They projected onto everyone she saw as selfish. When she started integrating her shadow, she didn't become selfish. She became balanced. She could say no without guilt. She could have needs without shame. She could prioritize herself when necessary. And ironically, her relationships improved because people could finally feel her authenticity instead of her performance. Or take Marcus, who was triggered by weak, emotional men. Through shadow work, he discovered he'd learned that boys who cry get bullied. So he buried his sensitivity and became hyper-masculine. But his shadow sensitivity didn't disappear. It made him attracted to women who carried his emotions for him, and it made him rage at men who showed vulnerability. When he integrated his shadow, he didn't become weak. He became strong enough to feel. He could access tears when grieving. He could show fear when appropriate. He could be tender with his children. His shadow didn't make him less of a man. It made him a complete human. This is the paradox Jung discovered. Your shadow contains the exact medicine you need. The confident person needs their hidden insecurity to develop genuine humility. The gentle person needs their hidden rage to develop boundaries. The serious person needs their hidden playfulness to develop joy. We need our shadows to become whole. But here's what's really profound about shadow work. It doesn't just change you, it changes how you see everyone. When you own your shadows, you stop projecting them. You stop needing others to be different. You stop being triggered by their shadows. You develop what Jung called sovereign consciousness. You become psychologically free. This is why shadow work is so transformative. It's not about fixing what's wrong with you. It's about reclaiming what's hidden in you. Every judgment you have about others is a clue. Every trigger is a teacher. Every projection is pointing you toward your own wholeness. Jung himself went through this process. He was a successful psychiatrist who discovered his shadow contained a mystic, a scientist who found an artist, a rational man who discovered intuition. By integrating these shadows, he didn't become less scientific. He became a scientist who could see beyond science. He became whole. And this is available to you right now. Your shadows are calling to you through your triggers, through your judgments, through your attractions and repulsions. They're showing you the parts of yourself you need to reclaim to become who you're meant to be. So here's your shadow work assignment. For the next 7 days, notice what triggers you. Not mild annoyances, but real emotional charges. Write them down. Then ask yourself, what quality in that person am I not allowing in myself? When did I learn that quality was bad? What would happen if I allowed myself to have that quality in a balanced way? Then try this experiment. For one day, give yourself permission to embody a shadow quality in a small way. If you've repressed selfishness, do one thing just for you. If you've repressed anger, express one boundary firmly. If you've repressed confidence, share one accomplishment without downplaying it. Notice what happens. Notice the energy that becomes available. This is how transformation happens. Not through rejecting parts of yourself, but through integrating them. Not through becoming perfect, but through becoming whole. Your shadow isn't your darkness. It's your unmanifested light. It's the parts of you that are so powerful you had to hide them to survive. But you're not surviving anymore. You're ready to thrive. Jung said that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But you can't become who you truly are while rejecting half of yourself. Your shadow contains your passion, your power, your authenticity. It contains everything you need to live fully. The question is, are you brave enough to look? Are you ready to meet your shadow and discover that what you've been running from is actually what you've been looking for? The shadow work begins now, not in some therapist's office, not after years of meditation. Right here, right now, with whatever triggered you today. Your shadows are speaking. Your projections are teaching. Your wholeness is waiting. All you have to do is turn toward what you've been running from and say, I see you. I own you. I integrate you. I am you. Because in the end, that's what shadow work reveals. There's nothing wrong with you. There's just parts of you waiting to come home. Parts of you waiting to be loved. Parts of you waiting to be expressed. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's your missing piece. And when you find it, you don't just change your life. You become who you were always meant to be. Whole, complete, unapologetically yourself. The darkness you fear contains the light you seek. Your shadow knows this. Jung knew this. And now, so do you. The only question left is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue projecting your shadows onto others? Or will you begin the heroic journey of reclaiming them? The choice is yours. But remember, every hero's journey begins with facing the darkness. And the darkness you need to face isn't out there, it's in here, it's you. And it's beautiful.